The flickering lamplight cast long, dancing shadows across the cluttered study, illuminating stacks of ancient tomes and dusty maps that spoke of forgotten journeys. Outside, the wind howled, a mournful lament that seemed to whisper secrets of the ancient forests surrounding the remote estate. I, Dr. Alistair Finch, a seasoned cryptozoologist with a penchant for the unexplained, found myself drawn to this isolated corner of the world, a place steeped in legend and shadowed by an unsettling silence. My current obsession, the reason for my arduous trek into this wilderness, was the persistent, almost mythical tales of the Whispering Man of Blackwood Mire. For generations, the inhabitants of the small village nestled at the edge of the mire had spoken of a creature, a being that was neither man nor beast, but something in between. They described a tall, gaunt figure, its form shifting and indistinct in the perpetual twilight of the fen, its presence heralded by a chilling whisper that seemed to coil around one's very soul. The stories varied, each one tinged with a primal fear, but the core remained the same. Something ancient and malevolent resided within the mire, something that observed, something that waited. My initial research had been frustratingly sparse. The whispers of local folklore were often dismissed by the scientific community as mere superstition, the product of isolated minds and overactive imaginations. Yet, there were recurring elements, consistent descriptions that defied easy categorization. The creature was said to possess unnatural speed, the ability to blend seamlessly with its surroundings, and a voice that induced a paralyzing terror. Some accounts spoke of fleeting glimpses, of eyes that gleamed with an unearthly intelligence from the dense fog. Others whispered of a sorrowful, haunting song that emanated from the depths of the mire, a melody that spoke of profound loneliness and ancient pain. It was the persistence of these narratives, spanning centuries and originating from individuals with no apparent motive for fabrication, that ignited my curiosity. I had dedicated my life to the pursuit of truth in the shadows, to unveiling the mysteries that lay beyond the veil of ordinary perception. The Whispering Man of Blackwood Mire presented a tantalizing puzzle, a potential keystone in the edifice of cryptozoology, a creature that could rewrite our understanding of the natural world, or perhaps even the supernatural. My arrival at Blackwood Manor, a decaying relic of a forgotten era, had been met with a wary silence. The current caretaker, an elderly man named Silas, his face a road map of weathered lines, seemed reluctant to even acknowledge the existence of the mire, let alone the legends associated with it. His eyes, however, held a flicker of something I recognized, a deep-seated fear, a primal respect for the unknown that gnawed at his resolve. He spoke in hushed tones, his voice raspy, urging me to abandon my quest, to return to the safety of civilization. But his warnings, instead of deterring me, only fanned the flames of my determination. The first few days were uneventful, filled with meticulous observation of the mire's periphery. I set up motion-sensitive cameras, deployed audio recorders, and painstakingly documented the flora and fauna, searching for any anomalies, any disruption in the natural order. The mire itself was a formidable obstacle, a vast expanse of murky water, treacherous bogs, and dense gnarled trees that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, a cloying perfume that hung heavy in the humid atmosphere. The silence here was not the peaceful quiet of nature, but an expectant hush, as if the very land held its breath, waiting for something to happen. It was on the third night that the true strangeness began. The audio recorders strategically placed along the mire's edge began to pick up peculiar sounds. Not the usual chirping of insects or the rustling of small animals, but a series of low, resonant hums, interspersed with what sounded like elongated sighs. The hums were rhythmic, almost musical, yet possessed a disquieting quality that sent shivers down my spine. They seemed to emanate from the very heart of the mire, a deep thrumming that vibrated through the damp soil and into the soles of my boots. The cameras, too, started to yield puzzling results. Fleeting blurs of movement, too fast to be identified, appeared in the periphery of the frames. Shadows seemed to detach themselves from trees, only to melt back into the gloom moments later. One frame, captured at the peak of a moonless night, showed a pair of luminous eyes, impossibly far apart, peering out from the dense undergrowth. The eyes were not the reflection of any known animal. They glowed with an internal light, a pale, phosphorescent green. Silas, upon hearing my findings, grew even more agitated. He recounted tales of his grandfather, who had ventured too deep into the mire in search of a lost child, and had returned days later, his mind shattered, muttering about a song of sorrow and eyes that knew everything. He spoke of the villagers' ancient rituals, their offerings made to appease whatever dwelled within the mire, appeasements that had, for a time, kept the creature at bay. My scientific mind, though intrigued, struggled to reconcile these accounts with the tangible evidence I was gathering. Was this a known animal, perhaps an unusually large and elusive species, its behavior amplified by local fear? Or was it something far more profound, a being that defied the established biological paradigms? The whisperings began a week later. At first, I dismissed them as the wind, the creaks and groans of the old manor, but they grew more distinct, more insidious. They were not words, not in any language I understood, but a sibilant murmur that seemed to weave itself into my thoughts, a constant, unsettling undertone to my every waking moment. It felt as if something was trying to communicate, to convey a message that my rational mind couldn't grasp. One afternoon, while exploring a particularly dense section of the mire, I stumbled upon a series of strange markings etched into the bark of an ancient oak. They were not natural formations, nor were they the work of any known animal. The symbols were intricate, geometric, and seemed to pulse with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. They spoke of an intelligence, of a deliberate act of creation, a message left by an unseen hand. As I traced the symbols with my fingers, the whispering intensified, coalescing into a single chilling phrase that echoed in my mind, a question. Do you seek? The question lodged itself in my consciousness, a constant torment. Do I seek? Yes, I sought knowledge, understanding, the unveiling of truth. But the whisper carried a weight of warning, a veiled threat. The temperature in the mire began to fluctuate dramatically, dropping to near freezing temperatures in localized patches, even during the day. The fog, which was a constant presence, seemed to thicken and swirl with an unnatural volition, obscuring visibility to mere feet. The strange hums grew louder, more insistent, accompanied by the mournful, haunting melody I had read about in the old texts. It was a melody of profound sadness, of eons of solitude, a sound that resonated with a primal existential ache. One evening, as a thick fog rolled in, swallowing the landscape in a spectral embrace, I ventured deeper than ever before. My flashlight beam struggled to penetrate the oppressive gloom. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The whispers were now a cacophony, a chorus of indistinct murmurs that seemed to surround me, pressing in from all sides. Then I saw it. Not a full corporeal form, but a distortion in the fog, a ripple in the fabric of reality. It was tall, impossibly so, its outline wavering, and it moved with a fluid grace that defied the uneven terrain, gliding over the treacherous ground as if it were made of mist itself. 2 points of pale green light, the luminous eyes I had seen in the photographs, fixed upon me. There was no aggression in them, no malice, but an ancient, profound weariness, a gaze that seemed to pierce through my very being, seeing not just me, but the entirety of my existence, my hopes, my fears, my insignificance. The whispering ceased, replaced by a single clear voice, a voice that was both sorrowful and resonant, like the echo of a forgotten song. It was not a voice of flesh and blood, but a sound that seemed to originate from the very air, from the trees, from the mire itself. "You seek what cannot be found," the voice whispered, though no lips moved. "You seek a name for what has no name, a form for what has no form. We are the echo of what was, the sorrow of what is lost. We are the silence that speaks, the shadow that watches." My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drum against the encroaching dread. I was not confronting a beast, but a manifestation, an entity bound to this place, an embodiment of its ancient, forgotten history. "What are you?" I managed to ask, my voice a mere tremor. The green eyes seemed to dim slightly, a subtle shift that conveyed a profound sadness. "We are the whispers of forgotten souls, the tears of a dying world. We are the keepers of memories that time has erased. We are the loneliness that lingers in the forgotten places." As the creature, if that was the right word, began to recede back into the fog, its form dissolving like smoke, a single crystalline tear, iridescent and luminous, detached itself from where an eye should be and fell to the murky water, creating ripples that spread outwards, carrying with them an unspoken lament. The encounter lasted mere moments, yet it felt like an eternity. When the fog finally cleared, revealing the familiar, albeit still eerie landscape, I was left standing alone, the silence of the mire now filled with the echoes of that mournful voice. I returned to Blackwood Mire, my mind reeling, my scientific framework shattered. The evidence was undeniable, yet incomprehensible. The whispering man of Blackwood Mire was not a creature to be classified, not a specimen to be captured. It was something far older, far more profound, a sentient manifestation of the mire's sorrow and its forgotten past. I packed my equipment, my research notes filled with observations that would likely be dismissed by my peers as the ramblings of a madman. But I knew what I had seen, what I heard. The whispers still lingered at the edges of my hearing, a constant reminder of the profound mysteries that lie hidden in the world, waiting for those brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to seek them. As I drove away from Blackwood Mire, leaving the silent, watchful mire behind, I glanced back one last time. The fog had returned, thicker than before, swirling around the ancient trees like a shroud. And for a fleeting instant, I thought I saw them again, those pale green eyes, watching me go, a silent farewell from a creature that existed on the fringes of our understanding, forever a whisper in the wind, a shadow in the mist, an unanswered question in the annals of the unknown. The world remained full of secrets, and the Blackwood Mire held one of its most profound, a testament to the fact that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be felt, to be experienced, and to leave an indelible mark upon the soul. The legend of the Whispering Man was not just a tale of fear, but a poignant reminder of the vastness of the universe and the profound loneliness that can exist even in the most desolate of places. The fear I had initially felt had been replaced by a deep, unsettling awe, a recognition of something ancient and powerful that continued to exist, unseen, unheard. By most, forever a part of the whispering darkness.